Warning, this podcast contains heavy spoilers for not just one movie, but entire franchises. We highly recommend going and watching these movies before listening to us as a companion piece that stitches all the timelines into one creepy, crime-ridden story. There will be no more spoiler warnings. We do not break character. After this, there is no turning back. You've been warned. Hit the music.
You are talking about the nonsensical ravings of a lunatic mind.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's
Hello, welcome to It's Alive Alive Podcast. It's a true crime, paranormal, interstellar podcast covering unbelievable stories that sound like they're ripped straight from the pages of a Hollywood script. I am your host, the outlaw Dr. H.R. Smokenstein, THC, and with me as always is my very own scream queen, the perfect combination of beauty and brains, the bride of Smokenstein, in the heart, expert, the guts and gore, the gorgeous, the sexy Amy Rose.
Hi.
That gorgeous nearly caught me.
That did.
It's like a weekly challenge for me, you know, to get through that without stumbling. And I should know that. Do you know when I try and do that off by heart, I can't. I will always get stuck after I am your host, the outlaw Dr. H.R. Smokenstein, THC, and with me as always. And then
my
after
very
that,
own screen queen.
Yeah, and I get lost. I feel like I'm always missing a part, but I'm not 100% sure.
I'm God after combination.
Perfect combination of beauty and brains, the bride of Smokenstein, in the heart, expert, the guts and gore, the gorgeous, sexy Amy Rose. I get most of it, but I always feel like I'm missing a word or something, so I doubt myself, so I need to be able to read it.
You got to stop doubting yourself is what you have to do.
Confidence in my intros.
Exactly.
Right, so what are we doing today?
Yeah. So we spent the last 3 episodes talking around this guy Jesse Custer, mainly because it's hard to tell if he ever really existed or not. And I mean, for all we know, he was just another part of the wild, wild west, but possibly fake story of the Grail.
Wild and possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have to get West in there, was it?
I did.
You just saw Wild and you were like, wow, West. And that's what this
Texas.
is about.
Texas is the Wild West, isn't it?
Huh?
Texas would be part of the Wild West, wouldn't it?
I'm always confused about that. Because, yes, they go on about the Wild West, but Texas is southern. And the West is California. And a lot of them would have been going to California to seek out better fortune. So was that a part of the Wild West?
Would
Was
you
that
not
more
go panning
cowboy?
for gold in Texas? In my head, the Wild West started, maybe I'm wrong here, started out because people were like gold prospectors, no?
Yeah, hang on, no. What area was the Wild West? American Frontier. Which
Has to be Texas as well. American Frontier.
I cannot see anything specifically. Okay. So, Turner's idea since 1983 is blah, 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 multitude individual, blah, 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 blah. But the American
Portions of
frontier
Texas
concentrates on the quest of settlement of Native American lands west of the Mississippi River in what is now Midwest Texas, the Great Plains, the Rocky Mountains, Southwest and West Coast. The West Coast would definitely be LA or California and all that.
Okay.
Washington. So that would, so we're both right.
Okay, cool.
That's nice. Neither of us have to admit defeat here today. It's all
We'll
good.
agree to disagree.
Yes. So we've been doing this for 3 fucking episodes. Let's be fair, right? We've been calling it a 3-parter, but it's been a sneaky 4-parter. Jesus the Sad.
Oh, yeah. It was a 4-parter, really.
Rolling.
Yeah.
They were the thing that took down the Sad, like. So,
Exactly.
I mean, they've been here for 4 weeks.
Yes.
Week 4, 1 month of the Grail and Jesse Custer.
Nice.
I'd do it for the rest of my life, I would.
You'd run out of things to talk about.
I'd never run out of things to talk about with this. This is wild. Every step of it. I'm sure if you dug deeper into the Grail and individuals in the Grail, like Eisenstein, who I think we're going to talk about, and even Darren Eek and all that stuff, we could get another few episodes out of it. Easy.
Yeah, easily. But we've both dug deep this week even, and scoured the internet to find more information about his possible origins. And while there are a few conflicting narratives, we found 2 stories that seem to be the most accepted canon backstory to this wild and powerful creature.
Yeah. So we decided to get the best version of this tale. We take the bits from both stories that line up together and then piece the rest of the tale together from elements that seem most likely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there is no right or wrong version of this. Like you said, the truth is almost likely this is complete fiction.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Not unlike other things that Christian groups do. But this is the most likely and in some cases most fun version of the story. And it's all really necessary to understand Starr's motivation and endgame.
Mm-hmm.
We did use, like I said last week, Garth, Ennis's and Steve Dillon was the other writer of this, their book as a source for all this information. And Garth's a good old Irishman, so hope you can play it.
Northern
Steve's a Brit, but we'll let that pass.
Steve
Dillon wrote it with him.
Oh, why is he a prick?
I said he's a Brit.
Oh, I thought you said a prick.
I'm going to show you how Irish she really is. She hears the word prick and she's a Brit and she's like,
No,
he's
the
a prick.
to prick.
We don't
No, we
hate English
don't.
people. We love you.
So let's go back to the start and look at Jesse's origins, and starting with his parents, John and Christina Custer. John Custer had a lot to live up to in his life. His father had been a Marine in the Pacific Theatre and fought in a lot of the nastiest battles of World War II. He taught John that sometimes you had to go and fight for your country you loved, and even if you fought and bled and died, your country was worth it.
Would you have preferred to fight in the Pacific or against the Nazis?
Nazis.
For glory or just for the fact that the Pacific are full of lunatics from Japan who are willing to happily kill themselves?
The Pacific, yeah, no, that scares
and
me.
there was a lot of flamethrowers and
Flamethrowers,
Japan.
Civilians used, because what they show in the Pacific.
And of course, the nuke.
The nuke, well, yeah, there's that as well. But what they show in the Pacific with the woman with the baby and everything strapped to her, that wasn't uncommon.
No lie. I swear to God, when the Pacific first came out. Now, I will say it first aired when head shops were 100% legal in this country, which meant for a period of about 2 years, we could all buy synthetic versions of normal drugs legally. So they'd have hashes, weeds,
Cocaine,
pills, powders, everything. I'd hate to know what the rest of it was like, because I can tell you now, I smoke weed and I smoke that, and they ain't the same. That would they were
blew your mind.
Oh, scary.
Yeah.
Scary.
What was
scary.
it? Bonsai, is it? Was that one of them?
Bonsai was one of the strongest ones. I remember the thing about them was you smoke them, but you could become immune to them very quickly.
Yeah.
So the first time you smoke them, you'd be like, whoa, and then after that, but it wasn't the same as weed. You know, weed is like you're kind of chill and you're happy and you're thinking, you might be thinking a bit more. This was full on panic.
Yeah, because synthetic's not good for you. I stand by that. Like, yeah.
That high would start, but it would never fucking stop, and you just by the end of it, you'd be like, especially with Bonsai. Because Bonsai was like the top. That was the hardest of the hard that I smoked. And it would just shit. There was no coming down. You'd have to nearly go to sleep to get rid of it. You know, and it wasn't pleasant.
See, by the time the head shops went here, I just realised what they were when I realised that they were being made illegal.
Why am I talking about head shops? Oh, yeah. So the Pacific was on at the time. And so I'd have a smoke and I'd sit down and watch the new episode of Pacific, and I would have full on war flashback dreams. Like,
intense.
I remember, do you remember the scene in the Pacific where they are like blowing the flamethrowers down into the Japanese fucking foxholes and stuff like that, and their little huts and stuff? I remember having a full blown dream of like, you know, like scurrying down a little fucking foxhole kind of thing and into a tunnel and feeling the heat coming up behind me, like, you know, and hearing the roar of the fucking flamethrower and just being like, oh, I'm waking up in a cold sweat going, Jesus fucking Christ. That was wild. But every week, without fail, I would watch the TV show, I'd go to bed, and that night I was dreaming about World War II.
Were you looking forward to those dreams though?
Little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing wrong with a wild dream.
They were exciting. I will admit that. I think once it didn't happen and I was a little let down by it, to be honest.
Aw, shit nice. So when John was old enough, he joined the Marines like his dad, only he went to Vietnam. And he very quickly discovered that his war and his daddy's war were two very different things. He lost friends and squad mates to fools in command and watched Marines die for no value that he could see. Still, he was a Marine and he was ostensibly fighting for his country, so he fought.
What would you do in that case?
What?
If you were in the army and because I was reading a story about, the Vietnam War specifically, where you see it actually in rather Band of Brothers or the Marine or the Pacific, one of the two, where they got the guy came in and he was above them. He was like, I don't know what, I don't know how the rankings work, to be honest with you, but he was above them and he was leading the boys into battle into their next mission.
Yeah.
But he was like a kind of rich college kid who was just there for the sake of being there, and he didn't actually know what he was doing and ended up getting them lost. Do you remember? He gets shot in it and they're kind of like, it needs to happen because we need to get rid of him or he's going to get us killed.
Yeah.
What would you do in that case where you have to follow commands from someone you know is sending you to your fucking death at this point because they don't know what they're doing? You know that his plan is wrong, but you have to follow commands of a superior officer. What
if there was enough of you fucking mutiny?
Yeah, but that could get you all in fucking massive trouble.
Are they going to punish everybody and that he's in command of?
Survives, yeah, you could be in
Well, then you got to make
trouble.
sure he doesn't survive.
Saying that, it's a good way of getting out of being in one of the bloodiest fucking worst wars in history.
Well,
court-martial into prison, not my fault.
Back then, would they have just shot you?
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs really of like army law, but
yeah, especially old army law. I don't know when they would stop that kind of behavior. I know they were just fucking killing fucking Nazi
prisoners
pretty quickly as well. So I don't know.
Well, it wasn't much better than what the Nazis were doing to their prisoners.
No.
Really.
War sucks.
And while he never came to love war, he never stopped loving his country. And John Custer won the Congressional Medal of Honor late in the war for helping a wounded fellow soldier, Billy Baker, through miles of dense jungle. When they reached the nearest base, they found themselves in the middle of a Viet Cong sneak attack and made enough noise to attract the attention of the sentries, who immediately started firing. Baker and Custer were seriously wounded in the attack and spent the rest of their tours behind desks.
On a message board, a guy claiming to be Baker, I don't know if it was him, was telling this story.
Yeah.
And he said he was shot in the leg and that it was a long trip back because their company and their ship or their helicopter had gotten blown up. Their evacuation helicopter had gotten blown up. So they were on their own and they had to try and make their way through the Vietnam territory to get back to their place. They said it was 100 clicks. I don't know how long a click is, but they were
completely... It's a kilometer.
He was giving out that it was a long fucking walk.
Okay.
Especially to be on one leg. So John had to literally help him the whole way along.
Jeez.
To the point where he wanted to shoot himself in the head and let John go on his own. But John then pulled out a gun and told him that if he shot, that he'd kill him if he shot himself. And that talked Baker down.
That he killed Baker if he shot himself.
Yep.
I wonder, could John have also said, I'm going to shoot myself if you shoot yourself, so that's pointless.
Don't know. But anyway, when they got to this, they're talking about that they went into... got themselves into the middle of a Viet Cong sneak attack. What happened was it was completely dark. They couldn't see anything, but they could see their boys sitting up on the other side with tanks and stuff like that. But it's really late at night, so they just assume it's fine. They make their way through this field. And John is literally holding Baker over his shoulders. And he said John stood in something, heard a crack, and then next thing a flare went off. And when the flare went off, they saw that they were surrounded by like Vietnam boys fucking crawling their way across the field.
God.
And they're just standing there and they start screaming and roaring and running as fast as they can, and that left their company, their boys, the Americans, know there's trouble over here, and they started shooting, giving them cover fire, but nearly hitting them in the meantime. I think they got Custer once by accident. Once or twice, so that's kind of what got him onto desk duty as well. It's a wild story. Again, with the internet, you don't really know if this guy's really who he talks about. And I think in a couple of weeks, rather next week or the week after, we'll be talking about people on the internet claiming to be stuff that they might not be or might be. So we'll have a look at that.
And not catfishing.
No, you were just telling me about that with Tommy Lee and his missus.
Oh yeah.
What happened?
So I think
side scroller here where we're moving away from the Custers and getting to the Lees.
What I can gather from online is that she's left him because of the drinking, but also she was catfished by the lead, not by the lead singer, but by a person claiming to be the lead singer from, I think it's Falling in Reverse. Ronnie Radke is his name, I think. And she turns up at his house, but it wasn't him. that had been messaging her was somebody pretending to be him.
Would I be bad if she turned up at the door and I was like, yep, that was me, because I'm saving her feelings. She obviously wants to be here and I'm saving her feelings. And Tommy's being a dick anyway, but I by telling her, she's going to feel very embarrassed and be let down by this. So would it not be nice for me to be like, yeah, that was me. Come on in, let's have sex.
What about my feelings?
I'm talking if I'm him.
Okay.
If you were here, I'd invite you too.
Well, according to, he's released text messages online, like screenshots, and he was like, well, I have a girlfriend and I have a baby, or maybe it's a baby. He definitely has a girlfriend, but like...
Why can't celebrities just keep their personal life personal? Do you know what I mean? If that happened
she
to
was
a girl...
keeping it quiet.
But that's
Tommy
what I'm
was keeping
saying.
it quiet
If a girl
too.
turned up here and I knew she was with somebody else, but I'm not particularly friendly with her, do you know... It's not that I'd be hiding it from him, but I wouldn't want to embarrass her either, and I wouldn't want to be airing dirty laundry all over the place. So I'd keep it to myself. I'd be like, look, you got catfish, that sucks. Come in, have a drink, and you can go home, and I'll call you a cab, and don't worry about it.
I get the feeling that it's somebody trying to suck up big time to Tommy Lee.
Or get their name in the fucking news because nobody's heard of your stupid fucking
that
band.
as well. Like, he was all kind of like, kind of like brotherhood about letting him know, but it's not. We all know what it's about. It's because you wanted to get, like you said, circulate your name and also suck up to what...
Tommy Lee can't really talk. It's like Charlie Sheen giving out you for cheating. It's like, you know, I mean, come here 1 second now, Tommy.
Yeah.
We've all seen the dirt. We've all heard about your exploits over the years. We've all seen the other movie you made too. Not the dirt.
And that wasn't cheating.
The speedboat. But I mean, you can't really go around talking shit. I mean, it's just that you live in a glass house, don't throw stones.
Don't be a hypocrite.
You know? I mean...
But now he hasn't said, I haven't seen anything from him giving out about the cheating. Like, so maybe he is, but like he had like this one kind of cryptic kind of thing up on Instagram and it was like, who's been catfished? So obviously it's, yeah. I like Tommy Lee though.
The internet ruined us all.
That it did.
Except for podcasting. That's the positive that we get out of the internet. Remember that.
Yes. Anyway, when Custer returned to Texas, he met the woman that he would later marry, Christina Custer. A year and a half later, they had a baby boy and named him Jesse Custer. They were a family and they were happy until Christina's past caught up with her.
Okay, so let's look at Christina.
Yes.
Christina Langell despised her mother. She came from an old clan, the Langels, who had century-old roots in France. They were a family of long tradition. The menfolk were preachers in times of peace and soldiers in times of war. The women were broodmares, that's disgusting,
yeah.
whose main job was to give birth to the next generation of Langels.
Lovely.
The incels would love them.
Broodmares.
Yeah, that is nasty.
It
I've
is
never
nasty.
heard of a call that before.
Have you never heard that?
Broodmares?
Yeah.
Hey, they just stick them in the fucking stables outside and just...
Yep.
Fucking hell. Christina wasn't about to fulfill her role in the family, so she escaped. She ran from their plantation in Angelville and went west towards Texas.
Wild, wild.
Yes. You love this Wild West shit. She met some people who were willing to take her where she needed to go and who were also more than happy to try and get her on their side as peace activists. See, I hate war people, but I also hate peace people. Why can't everyone just... I don't know.
War and Peace is a good book. Good movie.
Yeah?
Mm,
Thought it was a really big book.
it is. It's Tolstoy, but it's fantastic.
Have you read it?
Yes, and I've seen it.
All of it?
All of it.
How big is it?
That thick.
Right, as much as I've done is I've listened to the Ice Cube album. But I've listened to both volumes, War and Peace Volume 1 and War and Peace Volume 2.
All of it?
All of it. Every bit of it.
Whoa. How big is that?
Huh? The CD was about that size. No, it is. So those activists were fervently against the Vietnam War, and it was easy to get this... What was I saying? I'm kind of confused here. She kind of got lost in it, and because she was a naive kind of young girl, you know.
Yeah.
So they got her on their side because of that, you know. And I mean, a lot of people were against the Vietnam War at that time because it was seen as a kind of unwinnable situation. They weren't even officially in the Vietnam War; they were peacekeeping.
Okay. Yeah.
They were. It was from what I can tell, and I might not be right, and I might be mixing this up with Korea because I know Korea was a similar situation. But is it not a kind of thing of a proxy war almost? Wasn't Russia supporting one side and they were supporting the other.
think
And then
so.
they
My
sent soldiers
modern
in
history
to
isn't the best.
help out. But really, it was just their way of knocking at each other without
So a proxy
actually...
war during the Cold War.
Yeah, it was basically their way of taking shots at each other without actually kicking off the whole big war between them.
Okay. Yeah.
Keeping the Cold War cold. You know?
Yeah.
So, when Private Jesse Custer of the U.S. Marine Corps stopped to ask her where he might find his bus, she spat in his face and called him a baby killer. Nice first line.
Yes.
Nice pickup line. You baby killer! Come to bed with me. She thought it was what she was supposed to do. You know, she just thought anyone in a uniform,
Bad person.
not realizing that most of these people get drafted into this situation.
Exactly.
It's not by choice. Her friends leapt to her defense, even though the big Marine hadn't made any kind of move against her. They shouted epithets at him, and he just walked away. This is real signs of where Jesse gets his shit from, Joe. A good man, a prop man who's just going to ignore that shit and not rise to it and make it a worse situation.
Yeah.
Christina felt terrible about what she had done and went after John. She found him in a bar, just like Jesse'd be later on. This is a real family trait coming true. Without words, she apologized, and without words, he forgave her. Oh, that sounds
That's
like love at
nice.
first sight, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They talked for a long time after that about why people do hurtful things and why they should be forgiven. And within an hour of meeting each other, they were in love. Damn right they were. For the first time since leaving Angelville, Christina felt safe. She wanted to tell John everything about where she had come from, but never seemed to find the time. This time, the time would find her, however.
Okay.
So this is very similar to, and we'll talk about it a little later, but you will see this kind of repeat itself with Jesse and his girlfriend, Tulip O'Hare.
Mm-hmm. Though they hadn't married, they lived together with their son and felt that they were as happy as could be. That happiness was shattered, however, by the arrival of two familiar faces, Jody and TC, two workers from her mother's estate, and her two top henchmen. They had been sent to track her down and bring her back.
I couldn't find anything about those two with a surname.
No?
Nah, not a thing. It might as well have never existed.
Maybe, yeah. John tried to fight them, but Christina knew that it wouldn't work. She thought her lover was going to die, but when they found out that Jesse was his son, they brought the three of them back to Angelville. And there, Christina's grandmother, Custers, Jesse's grandmother, Mary Langell, laid down the conditions of his survival. They would marry and they would raise Jesse to be a man of God. And if they should try to escape, John would surely die.
Are they sure they're French? Could be Irish.
Why?
How many fucking families? That's why we had as many priests as we did up until fucking modern day, because you were kind of told you're going to be a priest when you're older.
Oh, yeah. Not everybody.
Was your dad not earmarked for priesthood?
I was about to say not everybody who was told they were a priest went into the priesthood. John Custer waited for about a year looking for his chance. And one night when Jesse was about 5, the chance came. John sat down with his son and tried to tell him all he needed to know just in case his father didn't make it with them. You got to be a good guy, Jesse. You got to be like John Wayne. You don't take no shit off fools and you don't judge people by what's in them. Oh no, you do judge people by what's in them, not how they look. And you do the right thing. You got to be one of those good guys, son, because there's way too many of the bad. They were caught before they got 2 miles, and John Custer was shot dead in front of his son. Christina was brought back to raise little Jesse.
Jesus Christ. And John sounds like a damn good guy. Because, I mean, people today need to hear that shit. You know, it's like, isn't it fucking crazy that this kind of thing is out there? Everybody knows what way you should be acting, but people work so hard to go the other direction. Yeah. And it is true, this fucking thing of, you know, you should be judging people by what's in them, not by what they look like. Because we talked about this on the Incel episode, right? And It's a Live Action. We were talking about how one complaint by incels that I agree on is the halo effect, where someone good looking is given good attributes. But I then countered that by saying then you could just go talk to them and realize that halo effect will go very quickly.
Instantly.
You know, instantly. Yeah, exactly. One bad fucking word and you know, fuck you.
Yeah.
You know? But There is, and it's a terrible thing about it is you do have to be one of the good ones because there is too many of the bad ones out there.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It sucks.
She taught him as best as she could. Bible study, English, maths, history, but her heart had left her when her husband died. And the next few years were comparatively peaceful until Jesse went into the coffin.
Right. I love talking about the coffin.
Why did you sound like giggity when I said coffin? You were like,
Giggity.
all right.
All right. Marie Langell. It's kinky. Down the coffin. Oh, yeah.
Depends what you're doing in the coffin, Josh.
Is it a double coffin? A single coffin? If it's a single coffin, it ain't no fun.
Double-decker coffin?
Oh, Marie Langell had heard Jesse use profanity in reaction to the murder of his dog. I'd be pissed off.
I'd be pissed
if you
off
killed my
as
dog
well.
too.
Yeah.
Probably
How old was
fucking
he,
kill
though?
You. Huh?
How old was he, I wonder?
Not 100% sure. As punishment, he was put into the coffin, a casket that was weighed to the bottom of the swamp with an air hose going to the surface. I technically said two wrong things there because a coffin and a casket are different.
A coffin and a casket are different. A coffin has a hinge. A casket has...
You put the lid on top.
Sorry, a coffin, you put the lid on top. The casket is hinged. A
Right.
coffin is also shaped like that, whereas a coffin... a coffin is shaped with the coffin tip and a casket is rectangular.
Yeah.
So in Ireland, we generally have caskets.
No, we have coffins.
Most of the funerals that I've been at, it's been a casket rather than a coffin.
Oh, I always see him put the lid on afterwards.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no.
I've only ever seen the kind of double-lidded fucking one-side open thing in American shows.
No, I've seen him here with they don't look like they come apart like what you're saying, but it's like a solid.
Times I've seen it, it's been one solid piece that's been off to the side, and then once the viewing is over, they'll come over and they'll put that on top, and then there's like these little screws on the side.
All you carry people have to be different.
Huh?
Hi.
Oy, so where was I?
You're going to tell us about the coffin.
Oh, yeah. So he's in the coffin at the end of the swamp with an air hose going in. So at least he can breathe. But still, imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
Underwater. I mean, the claustrophobia would be something that you'd have to go crazy under there.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, like, he could be kept under there. From what I've read on this, that how long he was under there depended on how long he was grounded for. So could, like, the worst I think he said was a month.
Imagine getting restless legs inside in that thing. Like, you wouldn't be
Well,
able
you're going to get
move.
sore anyway.
Yeah.
Lying in one
Get
spot,
bed sores.
you're going to get sore, definitely. You know, you
Yeah.
can't really toss and turn. Even then, if you can, it's only going to be bare, like, you know.
don't want to try not to knock the air hose out. I'm
Where the
assuming.
hell were fucking child services in Angelville? So it is possible that Christina spent some time in the coffin in her youth because she stood her ground against her mother. She said that Jesse would go into the coffin over her dead body. And at that point, her mother just did the math. She said, that's fine. No problem.
Yep.
Jesse had been born. The next generation was viable, and Christina didn't look to be willing to have her child with another man. Therefore, she was no longer of any value. Jody took Christina out to the swamp to shoot her. Before he could get his shot off, however, she attacked him. The bullet grazed her head and she fell into the water. As far as everyone in Angelville was concerned, Christina Custer was dead. So, Jesse's life under his grandmother's rule. Let's have a look at that.
Tell me.
So, for the longest time, it seemed like he just put up with it.
Mm.
He kind of knew what way his life. He'd seen what happened to his father when he tried to escape. He saw what happened to his mother when she put up a fight.
Mm.
So in Jesse's mind, there was no point in fighting this anymore.
Yeah.
Because on top of everything else, Jody was kind of put in charge of almost training Jesse to be a man.
Okay.
And Jody's idea of being a man was tough. You need to fight and you need to. So Jody kicked the shit out of him daily to try and force him to learn how to fight back. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he grew up kind of knowing that you have Jody and TC there. They're going to be able to stop me anytime they fucking want. Every time I fuck up, I'm thrown into this coffin. So what the fuck is the point?
Yep.
And they just keep killing people that I fucking love. Now, on top of that, they had a family business. This is where it gets interesting.
Okay.
They used to buy souls. So what they used to do was, and I don't know how this works, to be fair. I don't know, is it like a Bart Simpson job if he just writes it on a piece of fucking paper and hands it to you and that's your soul bought? I don't know.
Cough into a jar.
Anyway, She apparently had some sort of machine that did suck out some sort of liquid out of you, but I'm not 100% sure what it was.
Okay.
They used to hand out loans.
Loans, I secured against your soul?
Yeah.
Okay.
So she was essentially a loan shark, and she'd hand out money to people who needed money, or if they needed a favor, or if they needed voodoo magic, because she was all into voodoo magic, so curses and spells, love potions and stupid shit like this. Snake oil kind of fucking bullshit, like, you know. But Jesse was kind of being taught to be in this business as well and help Jodie and TC, because if he was, it was fine to have him as a preacher, but if he wasn't going to move beyond that, then he could still help her thing, because she claims, Marie Langell claims that she met the devil. I don't know if it was down in Georgia or not. But
I was just wondering.
And she made a deal with the devil.
Yeah.
That as long as she could stay young off of these souls, as long as she could convince people to give the souls. And if that was the deal, once she stopped getting souls to eat and she died, she'd be going straight down there to him.
Oh.
So that was the deal.
Okay.
Which is funny that she would have a deal with the devil being so closely linked to the Grail. So I don't know, maybe she knew what was up with the Grail and knew that she might be able to pull some strings to get her way out of it afterwards, or I don't know.
But why do people never think of this? It's like have a nice life and suffer for all of the rest of eternity, or what's possessing you to fucking agree to that?
Especially when you've met the devil and you've now confirmed
that
there is an afterlife that you can go to. And do you know what? I saw a thing online this week, and I'll talk about it more over the next couple of weeks on its live action and stuff like that. But it's the first time it's really brought like peace to my mind, right? Because when you think of religion, when you think of how, because if you look at it, religion is like the one ancient ritual humanity is held on to, right? We've abandoned magic, we've abandoned fairies, we've abandoned monsters, we've abandoned fucking wizards and witches and all this other shit to fiction. But all the religious stories fall into very similar areas as all those other stories.
Yeah.
And that's because they were made up in primitive times to explain what's going on. Now, in certain elements of things, we've seen stuff they've talked about and found scientific ways to explain those things, and that's perfect. That's fine. Everyone accepts that, right? Yeah. Like magic and potions, medicine. Chemistry, medicine. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And we're fine with that, and we're all cool with that. So these scientists think that they have cracked the idea of life after death. And I was thinking to myself, this makes sense. Because I've always felt that when you look at a dead body, something is missing from that dead body. Yeah. It's like a shell that's missing. It's literally the fucking whole thing of, you hear the lights are on, but nobody's home. This is like someone turned out the lights on this home and walked off. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So they say because it's beyond their understanding right now, it's hard to fully explain. But they believe there is maybe scientifically a way to explain that there is some energy inside of us. And when we die, it's not us going to heaven or hell or fucking moving or becoming completely gone, in the dirt finished. That this energy moves on and goes into the universe, to another part of the universe to be something else, to the next plane, essentially. Okay. When you're looking at dimensions and different worlds and multiverses and the universe being expanded. And it makes sense because I was looking at this show during the week. Dr. Brian Cox was doing this one about planets. It was a few years old. Yeah. But then you're looking at the planets, and the planets have fucking life cycles and everything. Like they were talking about how, Mercury's the one closest to the sun, right? Yeah. That there's proof of that having been a working planet at one point. There's proof that Venus might have been a working planet at one point. There's proof that Mars might have been a working planet at one point. Like working with stuff on it, living. Oh. Like not necessarily humans, not essentially as detailed as us, but for billions of years, these planets were working. Yeah. He kept saying they had their moment in the sun, but then because the sun is constantly expanding and getting bigger through its life cycle and getting hotter as it gets older, that's what caused the damage and caused all the stuff to die off in these planets. But we're in the Goldilocks zone is what he called it, where we're not cold, we're not too cold, we're not too hot, we're fucking perfect, and that's allowing us to survive
Yeah.
the way it is. But like he said, no, it was a few billion years, so no one needs to panic and go out right
Isn't
right
it like
now or
52
looting.
billion years time
But
that
in
we'll...
billions of years' time, eventually the sun will finish up. Do you know,
Yeah.
it'll be done, and our world will be finished too. And he said, as that expands as well, you're going to have that problem of we're going to have the same problems as these other other planets and other planets. So it's like fucking the planets themselves are living things. We're just on them doing our thing. So it just makes sense with everything that's happening in the universe that we would have a place in it beyond what we're here for. No, there has to be another level for why we're here, because everything else has a reason for why it's where it is. So that makes sense to me, you know?
Yeah.
And if there is other things on the other side, fucking putting stuff in motion, that would be our idea of what a god was, and we don't know what that is until we get there. It's just that we don't understand the afterlife right now, but it's now they think they're actually getting close to scientifically proving there is an afterlife.
Cool.
Not what we expect it to be, but when you think about it in a scientific terms, it's like, yeah, cool, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I feel better now. Thank you. You know, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway, so even then she's wasting her time with this soul shit because you ain't going to get your place in the universe.
Nope.
Anyway, so outside, so the family business was that. So she would take souls and survive on that. Also, where they made money was in a thing called the Tombs.
Okay.
Essentially Fight Club. It was like MMA before MMA was legal. They used to have organized fights. Like the traveling community does. We see those fucking bare knuckle boxing fights on YouTube fairly often.
Yeah.
It's usually the traveling community are involved in them. Similar. That's what they would do. They go down there. People would usually challenge Jody in the main event because he was unbeatable.
Okay.
Jesse challenged him a few times, got his ass handed to him.
Nice.
But Jesse was usually the MC of the night, riling up the crowd, getting things going. Something that apparently he loved doing, even though he knew the Tombs brought out the worst in him.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
So he'd try and keep it away. The only friend that Jesse apparently had at the time was a young lad called Billy Bob Boyd.
Billy
That
Bob
was wrong.
Boyd.
I had
Billy Bob Bob.
That's what it said in the thing, but it's Billy Bob Boyd. So the Boyds were a family. Oh no, sorry, I'm mistaking. Billy Bob Bob's was his name. The Boyds were a different group altogether. The Boyds were a rival voodoo family.
Oh, okay.
Who did the same thing she did, but they were constantly at odds with each other.
Yeah.
And apparently Jesse had a bit of a close Romeo and Juliet thing going on with one of their daughters at one point that got him some time in the coffin as well. Yeah.
Yikes.
Billy Bob Bob's came from a heavily incestuous family to the point where he only had one eye himself. Same with his sister, who was also his fiance. This is what I read.
Okay.
Billy Bob was kind of Jesse's only friend and the only person he could hang out with. And he spent a lot of time with Billy Bob. And Billy Bob would be the inspiration he needed, although in a tragic manner, to escape from his grandmother finally. Because one night Billy Bob stayed with him a little too late and it was getting late to go home. And when Billy Bob when it got late, Billy Bob used to stay over. But Jesse's grandmother, Marie, wouldn't let him in the house. Wouldn't let the freak in the house, what she said. So he used to have to sleep in the barn with the animals.
Okay.
One morning in particular, Billy Bob was asleep inside there when TC came in. Now, whereas Jody was a big, tough guy and the muscle of the family, TC was...
Waif like.
Do you remember Deliverance?
Yes. Oh,
Do you know the bad guys in Deliverance?
Yeah.
TC could fit in well with the bad guys from Deliverance.
I get you.
And TC had a bit of a fetish for animals. And on this particular morning, he picked himself up a chick. A hot chick.
Chicken?
Yes.
Okay.
And he was inside in the barn molesting the chick. And according to Jesse, Billy Bob stayed hidden because he knew that if TC saw him, he would attack him for being in the barn while he was doing what he was doing.
Okay.
And he was right, because when TC saw him, he accused him of being a pervert. The guy fucking a chicken accused the poor one-eyed guy of being a pervert and shot him.
Oh.
Shot him through the gut, and he came stumbling out of the barn in front of Jesse and collapsed and died. And TC said it was his own fucking fault. He shouldn't have been perving on me. I'd say about 15, 16. Maybe a little older, maybe 17. Now, what's marrying age? For brothers and sisters.
If you're going by that, I'd say anywhere from 12 onwards. And that.
Anyway, Jesse had enough and he took off on his own into the wilderness and he found himself in Dallas, Texas. And he hung out there for a while doing odd jobs and just skating by. He was in a bar one night with a girl. And at some point he said the girl went to the bathroom and just never came back. And he turned around and in her place, Tulip O'Hare was standing there.
Nice.
And she started flirting with Jesse immediately and said that night it was love at first sight and they were all over each other. Now, sources say that Tulip O'Hare was also known for being a bit violent and that a woman called in a police report that night of being assaulted by a girl with short blonde hair that beat her up and stuck her head in the toilet. This, we are guessing, might have been where Jesse's former girlfriend went.
Sounds like that other woman probably deserved it if she's going to the trouble of sticking her head in a toilet. Just saying.
Anyway, let's talk a little bit about Tulip and where she comes from, apparently, from what we've been able to find.
So Tulip was supposed to have been a boy, as far as her father, Jack O'Hare, was concerned anyway. He even had a name picked out for his son, John William Grady O'Hare, and they were going to play ball and go hunting and have the ideal father-son relationship. He had everything planned out. He was disappointed when the baby turned out to be a girl, and he was shocked when his wife died in childbirth. Without warning, he was a single father with a little girl he had no idea how to handle. He wasn't even sure how to hold a baby girl. But as soon as he did, he looked into his baby's face and thought, so you're a girl. That needn't be so bad. He named her Tulip because he knew that his wife had loved flower names.
Okay, right. So what's the difference between holding a baby girl and a baby boy?
One has a penis, the other doesn't.
He thought there'd be less weight and
Less
it
weight.
might fly off.
Yeah.
He
Picked him up. He was expecting something heavy.
Someone get me a banana to stick between her legs to weigh her down. What else was I going to say about? Do you know every time I hear the word Grady, because John William Grady O'Hare, every time I hear Grady, I just instantly flash to Sanford and Sons.
Oh, yeah.
His friend Grady coming in. Looking all weary and fucking wrecked tired like he'd been through the fucking wars.
He didn't try to make Tulip into a boy, but he raised her the same way he would have raised a son. He read her war stories and taught her to shoot. By her account, he had her smoking before she was in elementary school.
Nice, good parenting.
Yeah. He taught her about the Constitution and the war and how America was the best country in the world.
God bless the USA.
As he taught her, so did she teach him about equality and about his preconceptions of the roles of women. When the school's principal tried to keep her off the baseball team, Jake argued that Tulip should be considered on the basis of her abilities, which were considerable, and not on her gender. He came to realize that women had gotten a very poor deal during history, and he became determined to see that his daughter had every chance to be whoever she wanted. And Tulip loved him for it. He would be the model for the perfect man for the rest of her life, which is why his death due to a hunting accident nearly shattered her.
Want to hear about the hunting accident?
Yikes, go on, so.
It was, they were all hunting, obviously, so it was deer season. He was...
Could also be duck season.
Rabbit season.
Fox season. No, don't do that to the foxes.
You don't get the joke. Looney Tunes.
Oh,
rabbit season,
duck
rabbit
season.
season, duck
Gotcha.
season,
Yeah.
duck season, rabbit
No,
season.
I get
Okay. But yeah. So apparently he went into the brush to take a poop, and one of the hunters saw something rustling around in there and
Shot him
went.
up there. Yeah.
Shot him right through his fucking head, is what he did.
What the fuck was he looking at?
Surely though, when you're out hunting and it's hunting season and you know
You
that
wear
people are out
orange.
here, but you know people are out there, you're not going to shoot blindly into a bush because the bush moves. Surely you're going to wait and see what pops its head out first, or get a little closer to have an idea if you want to shoot the thing that's in there. What if it's not a deer? What if it's just some other fucking animal chilling? I suppose hunters don't really care, do they?
And how many even think that they finally caught Bigfoot?
That would be awesome. I wouldn't shoot Bigfoot.
I wouldn't shoot Bigfoot.
I couldn't shoot Bigfoot.
No, wave at him and keep my distance.
I mean, they don't hurt anybody. They just want to be left the fuck alone.
Yeah.
Why do you keep looking for me?
And they're really good at hiding.
Huh?
They're really good at hiding.
Yes. The end of Harry and the Hendersons caught me off guard massively.
I don't
did
think
not
I
see
realised
those
that.
bastards one little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even remember realising it when I was a kid. It was only until we watched it with our own that I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, I saw a move and I was like,
Yeah.
what the fuck?
All of
Good.
them.
Hide and seek champion. Bigfoot to this day. Never been shot. Nearly caught on photo once, but that's about it. Yeah. So
now an orphan, Tulip became a ward of the state and was put into boarding school. She quickly established herself as one of the smartest students in the school, if one of the least personable. Still, she attracted the eye of the richest student in the school, Amy Grinderbinder. Amy saw this lonely girl and figured her for a kindred spirit and would be her friend whether Tulip wanted it or not.
I've been calling her Grinderbinder.
Grinderbinder. Oh, Grinderbinder. Grinderbinder. I don't know.
Right.
Grinderbinder sounds funny.
Right away.
The two actually got along quite well, and Amy invited Tulip along to her house for Christmas. While they were there, Tulip got her first real experience with the rich and powerful, and she was not impressed. During a party filled with the sons and daughters of judges and senators, Amy nearly was gang raped.
Holy shit.
She was saved by Tulip, who crashed Amy's truck through the wall and started firing away with a shotgun. Despite her hatred of guns due to the manner of her father's death, she emptied the weapon into the room, nearly killing Amy's attackers. Fortunately for them and for her, no one died, but Amy was saved. Their friendship was cemented that night, and after Amy's father had died, they decided to take a few years off and travel the country. And it was on those travels she met a young Jesse Custer.
I stick by it. If you need to give a girl a pill to sleep with her, you don't deserve to sleep with her.
No.
Nasty.
Yes.
Anyway, Jesse and Tulip. So like we said, they met in that bar that night, fell head over heels in love with each other, and then started their outlaw years.
Nice. That's exciting.
They were car thieves. They robbed expensive cars and then bought and sold them off, and that's how they survived.
Oh.
And they traveled the country while they were doing it.
Made a nice little bit for themselves, I'd say.
Yeah, sounds nice, doesn't it? You know?
Yeah.
Pick up an oil, Gone in 60 Seconds style.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
haven't seen that movie in so
I've
fucking
seen it
long.
once.
Once. I remember liking it.
So did I. Nicolas Cage, isn't it?
Yeah, and Angelina Jolie.
Oh, yeah.
She was blonde in it,
I think I preferred it to Fast and Furious, but they're the only two car kind of movies that I would have.
I liked the first Fast and Furious. I like to say I just haven't seen any of them.
I can't remember
recently.
them
They
properly.
just started to kind of run off on themselves, so I just stopped.
I remember
after
Tokyo Drift. Yeah, I went to see that in cinema.
I think that's the last one I saw.
It didn't really fit in with the other two. That's kind of a
Yeah, it was a
standalone.
standalone.
Yeah.
This one. But then all of them come into all those characters,
come
then
into
mix
play.
in with the rest of them. Like,
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
I remember liking Too Fast, Too Furious. They really like to fuck around with that name, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
The Fast and Furious, Too Fast and Furious, Fast 5, Fast and Furious. It's,
What was the fourth one?
don't know.
When they run out of ideas, it'd be faster and furiouser. Furiously fast.
Fast and Furious. This time it's personal. So I can't. Where were we talking about this? So like we said, we saw this with John and Christina. They fall head over heels in love with each other, and they try to get as far away from Angelville as they could,
Yeah.
and to be together and to live their life the way they wanted to live.
Yes.
But just like for them, Jody and TC will come along and fuck it up.
Assholes.
So one day, Jesse and Tulip are in Phoenix, Arizona, chilling out after a car sale, and they decide they're going to have a few beers, and then they're going to get a hotel room, and then the next day they're going to head for California, where Tulip had always wanted to go to California.
Yeah.
And Jesse said, fuck it, we got enough money, let's go chill out in California for a while. So Tulip leaves to go pick up a 6-pack from the corner shop, and Jesse's just sitting on this bench in a park waiting for her, when TC sits down one side of him and Jody sits down the other side of him. And they explain to him that they can sit here and wait for his little girlfriend to come back, and they can all go back together, or he can come with them now.
Okay.
And to save Tulip, he stood up and left, leaving Tulip completely oblivious as to why he had left in the first place. So according to her, he just abandoned her in Phoenix.
He was just a scumbag.
Huh?
According to her, he was just a scumbag for leaving her.
Well,
No.
how could you see that? What would you think? You and me have been together for 12 years. We're extremely attached. Like, as in we do everything together. We're always going about how much we're crazy about each other. If you and me were sitting at a fucking bench somewhere and you came back and I was gone, would you just think I up and left you?
No, I'd have a search party out for you.
Well, she didn't. She went off on her own and kind of got into drinking a little bit too much to try and deal with this bad scenarios that she was having. Well, okay. Obviously, she was just trying to deal with it. She went out in the piss a lot, but it was depressing drinking, not fun drinking. It's the one where you drink too much until you're like sitting there going, Jesse, why'd you do this to me? After a while, though, and I've read this about her as a person, that she will wallow in this kind of stuff for a while, but eventually she will kind of feel like, right, fuck it, I'm not going to be crying over no man. I'm going to get up and get on with my fucking shit. And she did that, and she got herself cleaned up. She went to a form of rehab. It doesn't sound like it was the full-blown thing, because she did continue to drink afterwards, but she did go somewhere to detox a little bit.
Okay.
And kind of got it in her head to maybe search for Jesse a little bit to see, because she was kind of suspecting, it was weird for him to leave like that. Where the fuck could he be? At the same time, she got kind of mixed up with a criminal element, because she still had the same contacts they had when they were stealing cars. Jesse's missing, but she still needs to make a living, so she's doing odd jobs here and there, which is also kind of getting her into trouble. She's not as good at doing it without Jesse there with the planning, so they're not going completely right for her. She's having panic moments, and the fact that she's lost her confidence a little bit, so things don't all go according to plan for her. So Jesse's gone. She's thinking about going looking for him. So where has Jesse been all this time?
In Phoenix, Jesse's past caught up with him. And as with his parents, it was Jody and TC who found him, as you said. And they told him that he could come with them now, or they would kill the woman he was with and come back with them anyway. Frightened for Tulip, Jesse went with them, leaving her alone in Arizona. This time, he spent a month in the coffin. When he came out, he was well and truly broken, and his grandmother had won. He would be a preacher.
So Jesse then takes up his role as preacher of Annville, Texas. We talked about that 2 weeks ago, didn't we?
We did.
Him in Annville, because that's where the explosion happened. The methane explosion that the Grail called Genesis.
Yes.
Hit him. And while he was there, he was becoming more and more disillusioned with his position. He didn't want to be a preacher. He didn't want to be in this shithole back arse town. He wanted to be out with Tulip doing what he had been doing.
Yeah.
So he had also resorted to drinking too much to deal with his problems. He actually then, he credits Bill Hicks, the dead comedian from the 90s, with what happens next. He said he went to see Bill Hicks, or no, he accidentally came across the Bill Hicks concert. He went into a bar one night while he was kind of traveling around a bit, and he was having a few drinks, and it just happened that Bill Hicks had a show there. So he sat back and he watched the show. And he said while he didn't fully agree with Hicks's religious mindset, he did like how confident and forceful Hicks was with his own convictions, his own belief system and all this kind of thing. So Jesse admired that and wanted to try and replicate that to see if it would do anything in Annville. Might have done if he was sober. But he gets back to Annville and he is hammered drunk. And this is Saturday night. He stumbles into the bar and starts to berate everybody inside there for not attending church and not being good Christians. He then started to kind of list off some of the sins some of them had confessed to him over the time, and
that's a bad preacher.
He ended up getting his ass kicked.
I can imagine.
But it is what drew them all into church the next morning. So it was a bad thing. They all died there, didn't they? Yep. Well, that was part of what drew him in. Also, obviously, he had the beef with Quincannon going on.
Yeah.
Which didn't help the situation. So it wasn't actually, sorry, I'm after fucking up my timeline there. Jesse did this, they got pissy, and then he also had the shit with Quincannon going on. And, he was promising God was going to be in there to answer the questions, to try and force these people back into the church as well. So they're pissed off at him because he's talking shit about him. And he's also talking shit about getting God into the church at the same time. So, I mean, you'd show up for church for that, wouldn't you? I mean, I'm not a Christian.
I'd show for the tea.
But if our local priest came bursting into the bar and calling us all names and stuff like that and claimed to have God in church the next day, or he'd abandon his church, you'd go to see what was going on.
Unless I thought I was going to get exploded.
Well, they didn't know that.
No.
But we know. And that's what happened to Anvil. Bye-bye. So after that explosion, we got to go back a bit.
Okay.
So like I said, Tulip was in with the wrong crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And she had been given a job, to kind of a last chance job of, you've been fucking up a lot lately and you owe us a lot of money.
Okay.
Because she had to get money to get it dry up and all that kind of stuff as well. So she was kind of stuck for cash as well. And she was doing this job that she really didn't want to do. A hitman job. So that was kind of really against her. She wasn't a big gun person anyway after what happened to her dad. But she was in a tough bind and she knew the person she had to shoot wasn't a good person. It was a bad person. Another mob guy.
Yeah, yeah.
She apparently came up to the car with her target in it. There was 3 men in the back. She took a shot, missed her target, hit the guy sitting next to him, knocking off his jaw but not killing him, and then ran as fast as she could. And she needed to get out of there quick, because let alone did that gang want to know, but the guy that had hired her would be looking for her as well for fucking up the job and causing an issue.
Yeah.
She then ran up to a random truck she saw and told the man inside to get out. The man inside said, "No, you get in." And that was Pruntius Cassidy. Apparently he did not like the Pruntius part though.
Yeah, change it to Francis.
He just preferred for people to call him Cassie. Rarely ever told anybody his real name.
I wouldn't tell anybody my real name is Pruntius.
There's a bit of an extra thing about Cassidy that I've been leaving till the end.
Okay.
We're nearly there. We'll talk about it in a minute. Anyway, Tulip and Cassidy were trying to get the fuck out. I think it was San Francisco they were in at this point. They were trying to get out of there. Mm-hmm. And Tulip told him to drive west. Drive to the south. Not west, but drive west as in go to the Wild West.
Drive west to the south.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they were actually coming up on Anvil when the explosion happened.
Okay.
And that stopped Tulip, who was driving the vehicle at the time, because Cassidy didn't like daylight. Claimed to have some sort of disease that wouldn't let him out in the sunlight. So during the day, he slept in the back, the bed of the pickup truck with a tarp over his head.
There's a name for that. What is it when you can't go out into the sun because you're allergic to the sun and it's really bad for your
Don't bother
skin
looking it
and
up, because I'll
stuff?
tell you what he claimed it was later.
Okay.
And she stopped and he was asking what was going on, but wouldn't come out of the tarp. So she went towards Anvil where she saw Jesse, and they all went to a cafe to reconnect and explain what was going on, because obviously Jesse owed her an explanation.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where they all met back up. She just happened to be close to the explosion when it happened and met Jesse, who was nowhere near the explosion when it happened, but is claimed to have been near the explosion. He had already walked out after the God actor had shown up.
Yeah.
And he was actually on his way to this diner, which was close by Tulip and Cassidy.
Okay.
And they just happened to be walking towards that diner at the same time. They saw the explosion and stopped them. That's it. So it was pure coincidence, which really tells you when two people are meant to be together, no matter how much people try and force them apart, they will find a way back to each other.
Yeah,
you know?
there's a movie about this called Serendipity with John Cusack and the guy who's dead now and his daughter's alive and an actor. The English guy. Kate Beckinsale. And yeah.
I didn't know he got into movies. I thought he was just a TV show actor.
No, not him. Kate Beckinsale.
Oh okay.
Yeah. It's not an old movie.
Yeah.
So now we're caught up and back to Klaus Starr and the Grail. So when we left, Starr had been blown up had blown up Masada along with the Allfather and Messiah Humperdoo. And to the untrained eye, it would seem as if the Grail was truly dead and buried. But like the original Messiah Jesus, the Grail would rise again. Yes. Starr, now driven by vengeance, had a new plan he wished to enact. He would still hunt down and force Custer to be his Messiah, but instead of working with Jesse, he planned to crucify him. But not until he used him to kick off a mini-apocalypse and gained total control of the world governments.
So Starr's plan was he was going to go along with the Grail's original plan. But the Grail's original plan was going to be a huge nuclear war that would essentially destroy most of the population, leaving only a small few left. And then they would wheel out the Messiah, who would basically get them all going again, get them all back on side. And from there, he could get rid of Jesse and run the world himself. But that was originally with the big Messiah. The plan was they would follow the real Messiah. The original Grail believed this Messiah would lead them to the promised land or to a better future. Okay. Whereas Starr really just wanted to take control of the world himself.
Yeah.
He was pissed off, as we said in the last episode. He was pissed off with the big penis that had been drawn into the top of his head. He's missing his ear. He's missing, he's already got the scars that he already had. He wasn't happy, and he wanted to get revenge. So he only wanted Custer for the basic amount of time it would take to get the sheep in line, and then he would fucking torture and kill Jesse and take up the role himself.
Yeah.
So, all sounds semi-plausible up until this point, right?
Yes.
I will warn everybody listening now. This is where it goes completely off the rails.
Yeah.
Completely off the rails. To the point where it is so unbelievable, it's not possible. But let's have a look at this anyway. Okay, right. So obviously you're kicking off the apocalypse. There's going to be some work involved in that, right? Negotiations and how everything is going to play out. Especially between heaven and hell. Because according to the Grail, they're involved with all this. So they're going to have to be involved with negotiations on how it's going to go. For one, who goes to heaven, who goes to hell? When you're taking them at a mass scale like that, you got to be really, really quick. Now, we also know that the devil is dead. According to the Grail, the saint, the killers, killed the devil. So someone's got to take the devil's place. So I ask you, who in hell would be ideal to run a place that is solely to bring on misery, pain, and torture for eternity to people? Who in all of hell would be perfect for this spot?
I would say the saint of killers, but he's not allowed into hell when the devil was there.
No, he is allowed in hell.
Oh, I thought the devil told him to just get back out because he was.
Oh, yeah, he'd been kicked out of there since then. Yeah, but I mean, yeah. But all right, well, you got to think as well. It's got to be someone the devil's going to like. Someone the devil's going to be like, yeah, he's my right hand man. He's cool. I like him. He's got good ideas.
I know.
Who?
Hitler.
Yes, Hitler is the new devil, apparently, according to the Grail. I mean, if they're going to pick anybody to do it, they picked the right guy to get everybody on their side, didn't they?
It's kind of prophetic because if you change one letter in Heil, you get Hell Hitler.
Yes, I suppose so, yeah. And he pretty much brought hell to earth. So
he brought hell to earth.
So apparently Jesus and Hitler had to have negotiations as to who would go where.
I'd love to be a fly in that wall.
So yeah, I don't know how that worked. And if they had contact with Jesus, why the hell were they using a new Messiah? Why not just do the second coming like it's in the Bible? It's written there for him. It's
because it never.
Yeah. Maybe Jesus just wasn't up with the plan, didn't like the plan. He was like, nah, I don't want to do it. Yeah. I'm all about peace and harmony.
And generally, the second coming takes a lot longer than the first coming.
Yeah. You got to give him a half an hour and a sandwich, really.
Yeah.
Also in this book, they describe what hell is like.
What's it like?
So apparently, everybody has their own room. So nice private. You know, you got your own space.
Ensuite?
No.
Shit in the corner.
Yeah. So in this room, there's like this projector machine at the top that basically once it starts spinning, it simulates. You know, like when you're watching like Star Trek and so that they have the holodeck, or like in what's the one with the Orville? Do you remember they go into their hollow room and they could live out any kind of thing they wanted to?
What's the one in X-Men? Well,
it's essentially always the same thing. It was like that, except you would relive your worst memory over and over and over and over again for all of eternity. Sounds pretty shitty, but what you would expect from hell? I mean, you know.
Well, I mean, you're not getting cupcakes, like.
No. But that is a pretty fucking way to go. So that was what hell was like. Apparently, negotiations were ongoing. The main source of contention, according to Garth Ennis's book, was would the homosexuals go to heaven or hell? Hitler wanted them in hell. Jesus didn't feel like they deserved to go to hell. I don't know who won the argument.
They don't deserve to go to hell.
Well, it was. I agree with Jesus in this one.
I agree with you.
Rarely do.
Hang on, he says they don't deserve to go to hell, but did he agree that they deserve to be in heaven?
I wasn't in the room for the negotiations.
Saying I'd like to be a fly.
To be fair, but you know, I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. So as all this took place in the background, Jesse continued his search for God, who he believed was hiding out on Earth.
Yeah. When he was in New Orleans, he checked the jazz clubs because apparently God loves jazz. A couple of sex clubs because apparently God likes kinky sex. Especially, apparently, he likes dressing up as a Dalmatian.
Oh.
And doing that whole master submissive thing. I suppose if you got such a high-powered job as God, you would be into submissive sex. You'd want to lose control every now and then.
Generally, yeah.
It's usually it's those high-powered guys that get into that whole dam sub fucking thing, don't they?
I met a guy before that was extremely submissive, but he had a high-powered job. But he said that he was into. I only talked to him, but his whole outlook on it was he spends all day barking commands and stuff like that. I won't say where he works, but he a pretty high managerial job. But that was his thing. Once a month, he went to the club in Dublin, and he was just like. He didn't have to be that person.
Yeah, well, God was the same apparently, according to Garth Ennis. Anyway, Jesse decided that the easiest way because he felt like Genesis inside of him had memories he couldn't get into. And when you want to have an awakening and you want to open your mind, what's the best way to do it? Take a shitload of hallucinogens. So he, being a huge John Wayne fan, went into the Utah desert where a lot of these westerns were shot. Was it a Monument Valley or Memorial Monument Valley or something like that? And his plan was to take a shitload of peyote.
What is the difference between peyote and ayahuasca?
Not a clue.
Okay.
Not a notion. I've never had either of them.
No, neither do I.
He said when he took the peyote, he tripped out and it kind of gave him all he needed to know about everything. Enough that he'd be able to find God, and because God knew this, he met him in the Utah desert briefly.
Okay.
Basically, Jesse claims that God said he was a loving God, a merciful God, and because of that, he wouldn't kill Jesse. But Jesse pointed out that he had Genesis inside of him, and he knew he was stronger, and he didn't take this loving God shit the same way everyone else was. He was like, "No, that's a bullshit excuse. You're going to answer my fucking questions." The Grail then claims that Jesse Custer lost his eye in a battle with God, a brief battle with God. Not a battle, really. God got pissed off that he wouldn't take his answer and ripped his eye out.
Okay.
No, to be honest, you got to remember, according to all this, Jesse took peyote before this happened. So,
and ripped
whether
out his
he met
own
God
eye.
or not.
I mean, there was only a few. Was it last year, the year before, that girl got really high and was it meth and she was slumped up against a church, but she was after taking her own eyes out. She's alive now, but she's blind.
God, what a fucking come down from a trip, huh?
Yeah.
Blinded myself last night. I mean, I've heard of people going blind drunk, but I mean, being blind
by yourself,
takes it to another fucking level, doesn't it? So you got to remember, we don't really know what's going on, but at the same time, the Grail claims that God had visited Tulip and had visited Cassidy at other times to tell him to stop Jesse on his trip.
Okay.
But Jesse got it into his head that the best place to have a showdown would be where every Texan wants to have a showdown.
The Alamo.
At the Alamo. So he had decided to meet there. Starr got a tip that Jesse would be at the Alamo. But there's a lot of things going on in the background at the moment, right?
Okay.
According to Ennis and his book, Preacher, about all of this, Jesse went to Ratwater, the former location of Ratwater, and dug up William Money's bones.
Okay.
In a way, because he reckoned that by unsettling the grave of William Money, the Saint killers would come to him.
Okay.
When the Saint got to him, Jesse pointed out to him that it wasn't Jesse's fault that the Saint's life was the way it was.
Yeah.
And that he didn't have to keep doing what God wanted because God had left heaven. And that if he really thought about it, the Saint was in the position he was in now of anger and despair and ever fucking quest for revenge because God had put him in that position.
Yeah.
Because God creates everything, controls everything. And he said, a storm happened that night that drew those bad men on you. And that storm was sent by God, drawing those men towards you, knowing what would happen.
Yeah.
Because of that, he knew you'd be late home.
Yeah.
Meaning you wouldn't be able to save your fucking family. Knowing that your reaction would be to go back for revenge and hell. And, you know, and he knew that once he got to hell, that the rage that was inside him would force the devil to make this deal to send him back. So it was all this, according to Custer, was a grand plan by God. Because Custer's starting to click now what God is. It's something I've been saying for fucking years. He's someone who feeds off of love. He can't fucking, and he's trying to fucking play with humanity to get that love, and Jesse can see that. In the meantime, Starr has rounded up what's left of the Grail, which was supposed to be maybe 20 agents.
Ooh.
And a handful more that were in deep cover, but he couldn't get them out of deep cover because they refused to leave, because they were all in deep cover with very high level people and living lives of luxury.
Of course,
and now that the original Allfather is missing or dead and Masada is gone, they're not really trusting of Starr at the moment.
Yeah.
Especially since Eisenstein was gone. Now, we didn't really discuss Eisenstein. Eisenstein was like he was the man that knew all the secrets in the Grail. And he was the one that initiated new recruits into the Grail, especially high-level new recruits. And he was the man that initiated and gave Starr the training. Not the physical training, but the here's the secrets.
Okay.
Here's what we do.
Yeah.
And here's what your role is. And this is how to get along in the Grail. And he had come to question Starr in San Francisco about what happened to Masada. But he never came home.
Oh.
So the rest of the Grail started to suspect that Starr might be in this for himself.
Yeah.
And his conspiracy is starting to unravel a little bit. So this is where it gets kind of weird, because we don't really know what happened between Cassidy and Jesse. But when Starr got to the Alamo, he had his 20 agents kind of section off the Alamo so that no outsiders could get in. He had contacted the local authorities and told them, by the power of the Grail, you're not to go near this area.
Yeah.
And he was set up across the road from the Alamo with a sniper, one of his best snipers, to kill Jesse Custer. But when Jesse turned up with Cassidy, the two of them started fighting like fucking crazy. Beating the living piss out of each other. And he found it amusing to see two close friends doing battle. So he told the sniper to hold off for a few minutes and see how things ended up, and then we kill him at the end. You know, that kind of thing. In the meantime, Tulip was on the outskirts of all this, taking out the 20 men that he had left surrounding the area, unknowns to Starr. And she slowly made her way to Starr's location while Starr was enamored by the fight below. He said the claim is that she burst through the door. He pulled a gun on her. She pulled her gun on him. He screamed to fire at Jesse Custer because at this point, Cassidy... Okay, I'm going to tell you straight out. According to the book, Cassidy's a vampire.
Okay.
No, this shouldn't be crazy for us, because only a few weeks ago we were talking about Abertak the Irish vampire, so this is just another Irish vampire, apparently.
Okay, I mean, yeah.
And that apparently as the fight stopped, Jesse seemed to hold out his hand to pick up Cassidy. Cassidy punched him again and then turned around and walked towards the sun as the sun was coming up and caught fire.
As you do if you're a vampire. Or did somebody throw a flamethrower?
At this point, the shot was taken. Jesse Custer was killed. And Tulip and Starr were in a battle, but Starr's gun jammed just as he was about to kill Tulip. And she shot him instead.
Oh, thank
killing
God.
Starr. So Starr's dead, Jesse's dead, Cassidy's dead.
And only Tulip survives.
And Tulip survives. But there's more.
Okay.
According to the book, there was problems between Jesse and Cassidy because Cassidy claimed to love Tulip too. And they had split for a period of time due to this conflict. And when Cassidy knew he was going to meet Jesse at the Alamo to sort out this issue, which is probably why they were fighting, he also came up with a plan, because I didn't finish what Jesse and the Saint's plan was. So Jesse told the Saint that he knew he had to die to get Genesis out of him. And he knew God wouldn't go back to heaven until Genesis was gone from Jesse. So he told the Saint to make his way to heaven, because he's already dead, he can go there, and wait. And wait for God to come back to try and claim his throne. Because once God gets on that throne, the Saint won't have a hope.
Yeah.
But if he's there before God gets there, he can get him.
Okay.
In the meantime, Cassidy, feeling bad about the conflict with Tulip and Jesse, had went to church. A vampire in church. Crazy, right? And he spoke to God directly.
What did he say?
And made a deal with God that if he could get Jesse in the right place at the right time to die, that God would bring Jesse back instantly once Genesis was gone out of him. And he would sacrifice himself to make this happen, and God could go back to heaven and be happy, because God wouldn't go back to heaven until Genesis was out.
Yeah.
So Cassidy, by allowing himself to be killed, distracted Jesse long enough for him to be killed, and Jesse just woke back up straight away after.
So it worked.
Apparently, again, we don't know if Jesse and Tulip are even real people,
I know,
or if they ever existed at all. In the meantime, the story goes that the Saint of Killers was waiting up in heaven for God. And when God got back, the Saint put him down. So you're hearing it here first, people. The devil is dead. God is dead. We can do what we want. We have freedom.
I'd be a bit iffy of the Saint of Killers. So.
No, I did find one small piece of evidence to Jesse's existence. Not a solid piece of evidence, because anybody can write a letter, but we got a letter here.
Okay.
And there's one excerpt from it that describes what God was doing. And it's truly what I believe when it comes to, if there is a God, it's truly my belief as well on what he is.
Okay.
So I'm going to have a look at it here now. And you want me to do it in Jesse's voice, right? Okay. Where was it?
But it's from Jesse, isn't it?
From Jesse to Tulip.
Okay, go for it.
When all this craziness began, I took on a task, and I could not ignore. I swore to find the Lord God and force him to confess his people the sin he committed against them, as his betrayal of mankind by abandoning his place in heaven. If I did not try to set this terrible thing right, then I would be no kind of man at all. But what seemed so easy to figure back then has become a hell of a lot more complicated. You and I have both seen God face to face, and what he said those times set me to thinking. When I learned what Genesis itself knew, and half the secrets of heaven are locked inside this damn spook of mine, I knew I had an even harder job to do. The Lord is not the loving God he swore to us he was. Instead, he's just a God who feeds on love. The creation of mankind was the act of an egomaniac. Always said it.
Yep.
Plain and simple. To choose to follow God could be a conscious act, and therefore all the more pleasing to him. The result was a world that never knew peace, but I guess that never bothered him. Causing a war between his angels was nothing but a cheap, stupid test of who would choose him or who'd reject him. And engineering that rise of power beyond his own in Genesis, well, that's where he went looking for love somewhere very, very bad. And what it got him was having to run for his life. What it got the world was a nightmare. These are not the actions of a loving God. They are the fucked up, twisted machinations of a being dangerously set on being adored. And I believe humanity must be free of him if we're to have any chance of making it at all.
Good job.
Not bad. I kept falling back into my Irish accent. I do it better in my head.
Not as much as Mike Fassbender does.
So I agree with this. I love this fucking idea. When you look at it, you are constantly being told to love God, regardless of what's going on in your life, regardless of what's happening. And I've always said, if some got one that is that powerful needs me to go to a fucking building once a week and tell him how much I love him, then he ain't that fucking powerful.
No, he's quite insecure.
Yeah, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the big point of it all. According to Custer, Genesis was created out of this fucking want for love as well. He thought that by forcing this angel and demon together to create something new and is almost as powerful as himself, to force this thing to love him like he had gotten everything else to love him, would be like the ultimate fucking thing. To get this thing with no consciousness to fucking follow him and fall into his line.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it didn't work out like that for him.
No.
And it left him. And now God's dead. rejoice.
You sound like a Satanist.
Okay, I think we're pretty much.
Yeah, and that's it. Believe it or not, I suppose it's all about faith, really.
And I have faith in Jesse Custer. Love JC. I got to get one of those bracelets now that says, "What would JC do?"
Yeah.
Oh, I should get a tattooed on me. What would JC do? You love Jesus? I love Jesse.
Really confused then. Jesse Christ.
Okay, so here's the big question, right? I got a choice of serial killer or more conspiracy next week, and I can't make up my mind which one to go for first. Do we continue
Serial
on with
killer and then
conspiracy,
conspiracy.
or do we break it up
Break
with
it
a
up
serial
bit.
killer first?
Serial killer and then conspiracy.
Okay, because it could take both stories might take 2 weeks to tell. I'm not 100% sure.
Well, right now we'll say serial killer and then conspiracy theory, but the day before we're due to record, that could change.
It's true. But if it does change, I'll have the time traveling equipment to do it. Which is a hint for what might be coming in 1 or 2 weeks' time.
Depending.
Because next week we're going to feast on blood.
Nice.
Yes.
And if you enjoyed this, we have a lot of religion talk going on over on our Patreon bonus shows. It's a live action along with history on Playing with Bones, wrestling on Wrestling with Time, and along with my weekly photo dump and mini monsters episodes.
That's all at patreon.com/the Horrorverse Network, and it's only $5 a month. 7-day free trial for all new subscribers. We'll be back next week with more tales from the Horrorverse. Oh, one more fucking thing, because we're actually nearly kind of caught up with ourselves and all our work. From now on, we should have this show available to Patreon subscribers a little bit early.
Yes.
I'm hoping that you should get early access by Sunday. So that'd be 3 days earlier than everybody else. Cool. Okay, now we'll be back next week with more tales from the Horrorverse. See you all next time. It's Same Alive Live time. Same Horrorverse channel. Yeah, got it. I'm all over the place
Horrorverse
today.
channel. Woo. No, the different Horrorverse channel.
Yeah, don't go to ours. Go to that one. Okay, love ya. Bye-bye.
Hey, bye-bye.